What I want to talk about is writing learning outcomes, and more specifically, using behaviorally based language and terms to provide a sound basis for instruction and assessment. We want to consider what's the essential takeaway for the course, what is the absolute minimum thing that we want students to be able to do at the end of the course. We want to think about higher versus lower level cognitive skills. So we don't want to just focus on memorization types of facts or things like that, but having students actually know how to do things, to analyze, to be critical, to do these kind of deeper cognitive skills. We want to focus on observable skills and behavior. We can say that people should know something, but how are they going to be able to demonstrate that? The other great thing we want to consider is to communicate clear expectations to the students so that they know what's expected of them. And then finally, we want these things to be capable of being assessed. In other words, they have to be measurable. Here's Bloom's taxonomy that kind of looks at higher versus lower order thinking skills. At the lower level is just pure knowledge or remembering. We go up to comprehension and understanding. And at the highest levels, we have things like analysis, synthesis, and evaluation, actually creating things. I always like to look at some verbs to put together my learning outcomes. So this is a nice little table, and what it does is it gives some possible verbs you can use in developing your outcomes that kind of address Bloom's various levels of the taxonomy. So if you're interested in just very low-level skills, you might ask people to define something or describe it or list it. Up a little higher, perhaps in application, you might ask them to calculate or apply, to practice, predict. At the analysis level, you might have people be able to distinguish or to question or separate or diagram things. At the synthesis level, we might ask students to formulate something, to organize, to plan, prepare, design. And at the highest level, we have kind of a critical evaluation level, and in that case, we might ask people to appraise things, assess them, critique them, measure, judge, recommend, test, so on and so forth. Now, the structure of a learning outcome is important. There are certain things that we absolutely want to specify in a learning outcome. It will have an actor, generally that will be the student. It will have an observable behavior, so that's usually what you're asking them to do. That's your verb typically. An object of the behavior, so that's the object generally of the verb. You also need a criterion level. You don't want people to just do something any old way. You want them to do it well. And so what are the criteria by which we're going to judge them? And then finally, what conditions under which the behavior shall occur. That might be a time frame, it might be certain environmental situations or whatever, but what are the conditions? Upon completion of their field experience, students will be able to design and conduct a valid research project on a topic of disciplinary significance and write a journal quality research report capable of submission to a major journal in the field. Here I'd like you to just take a look at this and kind of parse it out. Are all of the things there? Use the various components of a well-written learning outcome and see if you can determine which of those are represented in this particular learning outcome and highlight them.